This week on SUTV Overtime, the Raider teams are making one last push for the playoffs.
More on that next on SUTV Overtime.
Hi everybody, great to have you with us here on SUTV Overtime. Great to be back after the week off for fall break. Then we had homecoming in there. A lot of action to get to. We're really covering 2 weeks of sports in one. There's a lot to talk about. And of course, there's a game going on right now that we're also simultaneously watching. If things look different tonight, it's because of that. We'll get to that in a bit. But man, oh man, a lot of good things happening for Shippensburg over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, the last 2 weeks, it seems like I'm saying it every week, but it's a great time to be a Raiders sports fan, and a lot of wins over these past 2 weeks. I can't remember too many losses, to be honest.
Across the board, it's certainly been a lot of fun. Let's go now into our top 5 from the last 2 weeks. We're cutting Shippin' 60 this week because there's too much to talk about, but we'll roll our top 5 plays from the week right here.
Been a catch.
He's rolling out to the left, gonna hang on, gonna dive, he's gonna do it again! Touchdown, Bryson Musina! And the Raiders are up 27-0 with 50 seconds to go. 6 on the play clock. Play action. Fires deep down the field, has a man! Bam! Evans! Touchdown! Kyle Evans! His 5th passing touchdown in the season. And the Raiders take a 20-0 lead.
To Gilchrist. Gilchrist, and it's tapped in by McGarrigle. McGarrigle from Gilchrist.
Musina passing, looking, end zone. Caught! Touchdown, Ian Sheehan. What a grab over DeAndre Blue Eli. Wow!
All right, so this is women's soccer from Saturday. Sydney Miller throws it in. KK O'Donnell's going to boot it. It's going to go off the crossbar. Kutztown tries to clear it out. They hit the crossbar again, clear it again, and here comes Julia Dalton to head it in, tie the game up at 1 with 11 minutes to go. The Raiders would go into double overtime, would lose 2-1 against number 3 in the nation, Kutztown. And go figure, David C. Field, I swear that place is cursed. They go to overtime again. Between men's soccer and women's soccer, nobody has gone to overtime on the road. They only go to overtime when they're in David C. Field.
It's weird because it's not like something you say it's cursed, but this curse apparently just started because my sophomore and freshman year, there were seemingly no overtime games. And it seems like they just they realized oh man, we missed the quota on those first 2 years. Let's make them all up this year. It's probably been, close to 10 games in overtime this year?
Between both men's and women's soccer, it's somewhere in that ballpark. A lot of overtime. And of course, we've been there for a lot of them too. Sarah got our watches okay, let's see how fast we can get through it. But nonetheless, they've still gotten some wins out of those overtimes. Of course, that one Westchester game didn't go to overtime that women's soccer had a couple weeks ago. Let's talk about football. They played Kutztown 2 weeks ago. Things didn't go quite as well on the road as they would have liked. They were able to hold Kutztown to only 20. Problem is Kutztown was able to hold them to 3 points.
Yeah, it was a weird game, mostly because of the weather. Kind of forced a little bit more of the ground game, not as much offense throughout the air. And that first half was just very low scoring. I think it was, wasn't it only 3-0 at halftime? Or was that after the first quarter?
That was after the first quarter. Ship's only points on the day came after a muffed punt, I think, on the first Shippensburg drive. They punted the football. Kutztown muffed it in their own zone, inside the red zone. Shippensburg was able to recover. They couldn't go anywhere. Montross went out and kicked the 3 points, and that was the last time that they scored all day long in that one. But they were able to rebound pretty well, come back for homecoming against Millersville. They gave up the first points to Millersville in 3 years, but they look good.
Yeah, that was probably one of the most all-around games I think I've seen Chip play this year. They played really well. Jax Montrose, just barely missed that 52-yarder, just put it off the bottom left corner. But overall, I think Chip played really well, and they kind of adapted more to the rain. Luckily, they had experience the week before playing in the rain, but they adapted well in that really the first quarter and a half when we had all that rain. But they adjusted well, and Shippensburg did pretty good. Bryson Musina, 2 rushing touchdowns in one game. If you would have told me that 2 years ago, never would have believed you. He would have had 1 in a season, let alone 2 in a game.
Right. He had his first rushing touchdown earlier this year of his career, not just on the season, of his career. He's been playing here in Shippensburg since 2018. He's never had a rushing touchdown until this year, and now I think he's up to 5. And breaking news update, Jazmin Petrantonio is at goal number 99. Field hockey is going on right now as we speak. They're playing Frostburg State with just under 2 minutes to go in the half. Shippensburg now leads 6-0. Jenna Schlemmer already has a hat trick, and Jazmin Petrantonio, that's goal number 30 on the season, so she now has broken her record for goals in a single season, and she is now 1 away from triple digits, the second person ever to do that in the PSAC, 3rd in Division II.
And Jazmin Petrantonio is, I think it's kind of obvious at this point, far and away the best field hockey player in Shippensburg history. And it looks like one of the most dominant athletes in Shippensburg history. She's no one, I feel like, at least to my knowledge, has been as dominant as she has been right now.
She's just been all over the place. Good. They only have 1 more regular season game left, but 30 goals in a season. 30 goals in a season. She has not been able to break that 6 goals in a game streak. I don't think it's going to happen today either. She's been relatively limited out on the field. Jenna Schlemmer's picked up the slack, though, as I mentioned, a hat trick in 1 period. But Yaz, goal number 99. We'll see by the time we are done if she hits 100 today or if we'll have to wait till Saturday with their next game. We'll just have to wait and see. Moving on from field hockey. Cross country, I guess you could say that the other schools at the PSAC championship were chasing Shippensburg?
You made the joke earlier.
Yep.
And I thought maybe it would grow on me when you said it again. It didn't. I think it might have been worse after you said it that time. But regardless, cross country, not really the finish they would have hoped for in the PSAC championship, especially for the men's. I believe they'd won every meet at least kind of PSAC meet they had been in this year. They did the meet in Lehigh, but that was a lot of D1 schools, so obviously not as much of as good of a finish as any of the other meets this year. But they were really hoping to come out on top, and it was just Edinburgh, I believe, had 3 guys finish in the top 4 right behind Chase McNair, who had won the overall men's title. But Shippensburg, regardless, still a great year for cross country, and I think you'll see a few of those guys competing in a few more meets throughout the year in nationals. But overall, it's a pretty good year for them. You'll see a lot of these guys running the long events in track and field in the spring.
Let's go back to field hockey for a moment because I realized with all of the Jazmin Petrantonio hype that we missed this. So Ship only has 1 game left after today. They have clinched the number 1 seed. So the PSAC championship game is coming through Shippensburg. It'll be played at Robb Field next Sunday. They've got home field advantage for that if they're able to make it that far. And then things kind of go from there. The playoff push for this team is real and perhaps may be the best threat for Shippensburg in the playoffs in quite some time.
Yeah, this Shippensburg team is, we were saying it earlier, their 2018 team, my freshman year, I thought that was the most dominant team I'd ever seen. I believe they only lost maybe 1 or 2 games that whole year, and it was I believe they lost a game to ESU and a game to Westchester, who are also ranked like 2 and 3 in the nation. But this team, I think, would blow if they played the 2018 team against the current team, I think our current team would blow them out of the water. It is insane, the difference, the level that they have over anyone else in the country in D2, which granted a lot of it is the PSAC, but still, Shippensburg is up here. Westchester and ESU are down here. It's such an insane difference. When you played Westchester at home a few weeks ago, you only hold second team in the nation to 3 shots. It's absolutely mind-blowing to me.
That game, I think, was the final nail in the coffin for anybody else in the PSAC to top Shippensburg. When Westchester got held to 3 goals, Westchester played them close earlier this year at Westchester, but when it came to playing in Shippensburg at Robb Field, Ship just had them covered.
Yeah, it's crazy. The only team that has had a legitimate close shot of beating Shippensburg this year was Kutztown when, shocker, home game, overtime. But that's the only time it's been a real close matchup. And it blows my mind. I'm lost for words of how good this team is.
Let's move on to game balls now and finish us strong here. Your game ball for the week goes to?
Not field hockey for once. Changing it up a little bit. I'm giving my game ball to the men's cross-country champion, Chase McNair. Ran a 25-minute, 47-second 8K. I think kind of the obvious choice there. But, yeah, he ran away with that one.
It's taking everything in my power not to make that joke again, but I'm gonna hold off. My game ball for this week goes to Valu Paul, who had a hat trick in their game Sunday against IUP. Also scored once in their Tuesday game, so a week ago at Seton Hill when the Raiders won 12-0. Close game. They've done that a couple of times this year where they've gone on and just destroyed the team that they were playing. And so far with the game going on today, it kind of looks like it's following the same path. How about the crew game ball or game balls for this week? So
the crew, it's actually going to be split between 2 athletes, both on the women's volleyball team, who's had a great turnaround to their season as of recent. But it's going to be split between Gardner and Anderson. Gardner, 34 kills and 40 digs over the past 2 games. She won the Athlete of the Week for the PSAC East. And Anderson won Defensive Athlete of the Week in the East, 7 blocks and 20 kills in her first 2 collegiate starts. So that's going to be the crew game balls for the week.
So there's our game balls for this week. Now I know you, and we didn't mention this 2 weeks ago, and it was my fault because of it. You have something coming up that will air on this show, if you will. It'll be on SUTV Overtime, and basically you're going to be made a fool out of a little bit.
Yeah, so essentially what the show is, it's kind of an inspiration from the old Spike series, Pros versus Joes, but it's going to be called Ramsdale versus Raiders. I will be embarrassing myself against all of the Shippensburg teams here for the sake of your entertainment. We've recorded a few segments so far against the men's and women's basketball team, which, spoiler alert, like most of these, does not go well. I took on the lacrosse team a few days ago as well, and then this Friday I will be making my way to Donald N. Miller Pool to take on the swim team. So look forward to that series. It's going to be a great time for all of you guys watching. A little bit less for me. Pride's a little hurt, but we're going to get through it. But it's going to be a great segment, and I hope all of you guys enjoy it.
Gone swimming. All right. Well, we'll have to see on that. First part of that series comes next week, right?
Yep, next Tuesday. Episode 5 of SUTV Overtime.
Episode 6. What are we seeing? What are we seeing first?
We will be seeing men's and women's basketball in a 3-point contest. It's going to be 2 rounds. In the second round, there's a little bit of a surprise that will be some very entertaining basketball.
We're just 2 weeks away from basketball coming back, by the way.
Can't wait.
2 weeks. It's going to be a lot of fun. That'll do it here for SUTV Overtime, episode 5. We're going to be talking about winter sports in 2 weeks.
It hasn't hit me yet. It's still a little weird that it's almost November. Yeah. I don't like it. That means I'm one step closer to graduation, and oh boy.
Yeah, really. You're starting to get closer and closer to the exit now, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. Don't remind me. It hurts.
Anyway, that'll do it for Overtime for this week. We'll be back with a whole lot more next week. Plus, we'll have a recap of all things sports on Thursday during the SUTV News broadcast, and we'll potentially have an end to these to the Jazmin Petrantonio saga of will she hit 100 goals? We'll find out. But for Patrick Ramsdale, I'm Jacob Pitts. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Good night.